As you can see here, I've acquired some evidence of Patrick in Italy. He seems to have misplaced his face shield. I'm not sure where the mask is either. And I don't know what's going on here. This does not seem like social distancing. That guy looks like he's definitely got COVID. Patrick, what do you have to say for yourself?
Had a good time in Italy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, had a good time. A little jet lagged. I'm fresh off the plane.
You're just a hypocrite, huh?
A hypocrite? No.
Yes.
I had to, it was Lauren's wedding. Had to go celebrate the old F-Stoppers team.
Do you remember when you yelled at me because I got Burger King once and I didn't put the bag in the oven first?
You weren't vaccinated, bro.
Oh, okay. Well,
the vaccination changes everything, right? I'm trying to show people why they should get vaccinated. You can go to pool parties in other countries.
Well, we're going to talk about that because apparently you can't anymore because that Delta variant's breaking through. And I apologize for being late. We're having crazy, weird computer network problems in the house. I'm honestly a little impressed
Shocked
that this is working. Like I'm jerry-rigging it and like running it through another computer.
Even that
right
video
now.
was streaming really slowly,
slow.
right?
Yeah. So something's going on. Like I think we just need to reset our entire house-wide internet network. But that's why we're late. So apologies. Yeah. So I guess we have a little bit of an update to do, and maybe we should kind of save it till the end of the show. But we ended the last show with our dog argument.
Yeah.
And you proved to me that your dog was, you know, a good dog and potty trained by allowing it in the room. It jumped on me and peed all over me live on the air.
Yeah. We spent all week preparing.
Yeah. You then found someone to watch the dog, and then less than 24 hours later, we ended up watching the dog for the whole trip.
9 hours later.
9 hours later. So
will we save that story to the end, or we?
We'll save that story to the end because this is supposed to be coronavirus journal, because you know it's a photography channel and it makes total sense.
Right. We don't want to talk about the dog and about.
Yeah.
I'm still in swim trunks here.
You just flew in, huh?
I got in at 1:30 this morning.
That's true, and you just straight out of the pool, like
straight out of the pool. I mean, I have to go comfortably.
I understand. Well, let's go ahead. Oh goodness, how am I going to do this?
You have to control everything off.
Okay, well this let's see.
Still not working.
Doesn't work. All right, so I've got to hit this on like that. There's Patrick.
Well, that's a friend of mine. This guy actually knew a Ryan from Dorado Beach East, and I was like, I'm friends with Ryan. He's moving to Palmas, and so like I filmed this whole video with him, and then he was like. He sells stuff on Amazon. I was like, I don't think my guy sells stuff on Amazon. And he's like, yeah, he does this and this. And all of a sudden we realized it's a different Ryan who lives in Dorado Beach. And I was like, what a weird world.
I've got a crazy Delta variant Ryan from Dorado Beach story that I'll tell in a second. But first, let's look at the current situation.
We begin tonight with the soaring COVID surge. The U.S. is now back to where it was 6 months ago in terms of new daily infections. NIH Director Dr. Francis Collins says we should never have gotten to this point. And as schools begin to resume in person, there is growing concern for children. Doctors at one hospital in Florida tell ABC News they are seeing more pediatric COVID patients now than at any other time in the pandemic. Guidance expected soon on booster shots for the immunocompromised. These images are from an Emory University study now underway. What the FDA is saying in just a moment. More than 68% of eligible Americans have had at least one dose. Top health officials now have a renewed sense of urgency, telling the unvaccinated it is not too late. ABC's Janae Norman leads us off tonight.
Tonight, the Delta variant fueling yet another COVID-19 surge. The U.S. averaging nearly 100,000 new daily cases, the highest since February. Some of the nation's top health officials frustrated, calling this latest surge preventable.
I'm afraid we should not really have ever gotten in the place we are. Most of the cases, of course, now in unvaccinated people. Almost all of the deaths are unvaccinated people. And these are younger people now, including children.
Florida now with the highest number of confirmed pediatric COVID patients in the country. At Broward Health Medical Center in Fort Lauderdale, jail, doctors say they're seeing more children admitted than at any point during the pandemic.
It's very upsetting. It's very anxiety-provoking for the child. We're seeing children, that are complaining of air hunger, because their oxygen sats are low, they're struggling to breathe, and it's very sad.
So cases are surging.
Cases are surging.
And it's like young people below the age of 40.
I watched this interview with Fauci where they were asking him, why are more children in the hospital? Is it because the Delta variant is more contagious for children? Or more deadly, or whatever? And he was like, we don't really know. It's certainly more contagious than the previous standard COVID, or COVID classic, as I like to call it. But he said, we're not really sure why there are more kids infected. At the same time, though, I have not seen a statistic, and I tried to find it, I couldn't find it. When people say, like, more kids than ever before, what does that mean?
Well, so I was trying to find a video, because this whole thing is built around video. There was something about Iceland's epidemiologist was coming out and saying, like, we just have to all get we just have to all get COVID because it is bypassing the vaccines, is what he's claiming. I think Iceland has had a really high vaccination rate, and now they're on this new list of places not to visit. And when I saw
What do you mean? They don't want people coming in?
The United States, the CDC is saying, do not go to Iceland right now. I have a video about this later, because it's like booming. So I look up their
there's
numbers.
There's just that many people going there.
No, it's just because their numbers are spiking.
But I thought you just said they were very vaccinated. You're just saying it's breaking through the vaccine.
Right, that's what they're saying. And so their epidemiologist, their chief epidemiologist, their Fauci, is saying the vaccine's not working. We need to just have everybody get this virus to where it can't really spread anymore because everyone's gotten it. And I think his words, and I wish I could find a video of him talking about this. I read it in print on the flight this morning. It was basically saying that if we protect the people that are vulnerable, which now seems to be young people, but let's say the old people that might actually die, if everyone got COVID in a month, there would be no more people for COVID to spread to, right?
I mean,
Except
we
the
don't
people,
know that that's true. Don't you have a friend that's got it like 3 times?
Yeah, but I don't know that people are getting it like within a month or two. I mean, maybe they are.
All right, well,
But before you go, the whole idea was with Iceland, it's like it's up 200 or 300%. And I'm like, well, if you have 1 death and now you have 2 people dying, that's 100% increase.
I know.
And that's where I feel like the news is really disingenuous because it's like 100% sounds horrible. I saw another statistic, 300%. But if the numbers have dropped down to a very low level, it's kind of like saying our economy has rebounded 300% since this time last year. And you're like, well, wait a minute. What if it's still way below where it was 2 years ago?
Right.
It's like a game of using statistics and percentages to make something look scarier than perhaps it is.
Well, I will show you the exact numbers in just a second, but let me quickly tell the story because I think it's relevant. And it's my friend's business partner and friends. Okay, so I don't have the direct story, but it's also not friends of friends of friends. Like every other story I've ever heard.
Are these the baseball trading card people?
I mean, it's that crew, but it's Ryan.
Right.
Who just moved here. His business partner went to Mexico. He went to dinner. This is. It sounds like a multiple choice question on some science test or something. He goes to dinner with 3 other people in Mexico. 1 did not ever have COVID and did not ever have the vaccine. 1 recovered from COVID and did not have the vaccine. 1 had the vaccine and did not recover from COVID, and 1 had both. Did I say all that correctly?
What does that mean? 1 had the vaccine but did not recover from COVID?
Like they had never had COVID naturally.
Oh, okay. He didn't die. He didn't get COVID.
Yeah. He just had never been infected with COVID. He just had the vaccine, like me. But you've had the vaccine and you've recovered from actual COVID.
Right.
You were infected.
I'm the strongest.
So it was like one of every possible scenario was at this table, right? And in the middle of dinner, the girl at the table says, I can't smell or taste anything. Like right in the middle of dinner. And they're like, are you kidding me? And I can't remember which one of the 4 she was, but she was definitely vaccinated. And that's why she wasn't that worried about it, right? Well, everyone at the table got it, except for the one person who had COVID and who had not been vaccinated.
Okay.
The other 3 people got it, and they all said it was pretty bad.
Really?
Yeah, like his business partner, who's in great shape, he was trapped in a hotel for 7 days. He felt really bad for 7 days, never got to the point of hospitalization. And I'm trying to remember, I think he said the hotel he was at was thousands of dollars a night. And he wasn't allowed to leave, so you just have to keep
He had
paying.
to stay in the hotel?
Something like that.
Oh,
yeah.
because I was thinking if I had to take a COVID test to get out of Italy back into the United States. Getting to Italy, I just had to have a vaccine card, right? I just had to say that I was vaccinated or have a negative test, but I had the vaccine. But to get back into the United States, you have to have a test within 72 hours. And so we were all worried. I was like, if you have a 72-hour window for this test, I was like, I want to take the test at the very earliest so that if I do get COVID and am positive, I already have the negative test to get on the airplane and get home. And so we're all...
Wait. You're going to get on the plane knowingly being infected with COVID?
I wouldn't necessarily know. If you can't you test positive and like not totally have the symptoms yet?
The symptoms or the contagion?
Well, yeah, the whole you have it, right? You're contagious days before you even know that you have the virus.
Maybe, yeah.
So if the CDC or the federal government or whoever it is says you have to take a test to be negative 3 days before your flight, I'm going to take it on the very first day and then go through it doesn't say take the test and then quarantine before you get on your flight. So we all,
I don't know if we're having a problem.
Are we frozen?
With can you guys let us know in the comments, is our video playing back smoothly for you? Like, we're watching it here and it's getting super low res, but I'm thinking that that's a problem with our download speed and not our upload speed. I don't know. So let us know.
All I'm saying is that I followed the rules and I got my negative test at the beginning of my 72 hours. Mm-hmm. But the fear we all had was, what if we start testing positive? True. You have to quarantine for 10 days and book a hotel. And I was going to book the cheapest hotel for the 10 days because I'm just going to be the one with the best air conditioning. But I'm not going to stay at the 5-star hotel that I was at for the 3 days, right? Like, I'm going to get there. It becomes a pretty expensive ordeal.
I think I heard another...
There. Becomes a pretty expensive ordeal.
I heard another story of somebody who was in Dubai and got it, and they had to stay in their hotel, and they were staying in a $5,000 a night hotel.
Oh my gosh.
And they had to stay like 2 weeks in this hotel room. And yeah.
Well, my dad's been saying for the longest time that he's always heard that, and maybe is this the consensus, that the vaccine protects you better than the natural antibodies from getting COVID. That's what I feel like our government's kind of been telling us, that like, go ahead and get vaccinated. That was the reason. Remember when Trump got COVID? And then people were like, he drove around and did that crazy parade. And then people were like mad because he wasn't getting the vaccine. And I was thinking, he just got the natural antibodies from the actual disease, from the virus. Why would he need to get the vaccine? And, and a lot of people, I think Fauci was saying, the vaccine, it protects you even more than getting COVID.
Yeah.
But the story you were saying, maybe that wasn't true?
Well, in this perfectly scientific experiment, who did not get it was the one who had COVID and did not have the vaccine. But who knows? I mean, he probably was further away. You know, I mean, I heard some crazy statistic that was something like less than 20% of spouses with a COVID positive spouse get it from their spouse. How is that possible?
Yeah.
If this is such a contagious disease, how does 80% of spouses never get it when they sleep in the same bed with them? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
Somebody's saying Patrick doesn't care about getting on a plane and infecting everyone.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's exactly what you're saying.
I'm saying I got a negative test, and for all practical purposes, I'm still negative. Now, if I'm having fevers and symptoms, I would not get on the plane. But to answer your speculation there, what else are you supposed to do? Test every single day and be negative every day you go do something? I mean, there is a reasonable risk of getting on an airline. And if I've taken a test and I've shown up to be negative, I think that's total BS, because we've known people. I got COVID because somebody took a test and was negative, and then came here and then had symptoms and got us all sick. I think the test is garbage. I think, like, because you test negative, that just means where you were 5 days ago. If you were negative in Puerto Rico and then I fly to Italy and I party for a couple days and then I test negative a few days later, that doesn't mean that I'm actually negative. It just means I'm negative probably when I got on the flight to get into Italy.
So because somebody gave you COVID with the negative test, you're going to give it to other people on the plane.
The only way to do it would be, we're going to give rapid tests to everyone right before you get on the plane. Right? It's like weigh-ins, right? It's like, if you're going to say, we want there to be a weight class, shouldn't you weigh the people like an hour before they fight? You shouldn't weigh them 48 hours before they fight and then expect them to really be that weight. It's like, that doesn't make sense. If you want people to be the safest, you give them the nose swab with the rapid test right before you get on the plane.
It's true.
It'd be inconvenient. It'd be a big pain in the ass when you test positive.
And can you imagine that line? And to do it safely, they'd need to do it outside the airport. You know, it's like, to get through those doors. You have to do. So it's like you've got all your bags.
I mean, you couldn't get in the airport unless you provided the QR code. Like, when you enter the airport, before you go even to the check-in counter, you had to show that negative test.
Well, maybe now's a good time to kind of talk about this. Basically, they're doing the vaccine passport thing in Italy, right? You had to show...
Yeah, they started this thing called the Green Pass. I have a video if you just want to play the video.
Oh, okay, I didn't see you had that.
Hopefully we're still streaming, because we're getting all kinds of warning signs on our side.
Yeah, our computer's like, we're about to explode. Let's see. Green Pass in Italy.
Want to visit a museum, check out an art gallery, maybe tour the Colosseum and have a bite in a restaurant? In Italy, you'll need a green pass to make it happen.
I think it's a good idea. Less sick people.
Beginning Friday, a digital or paper certificate showing proof of vaccination, a negative coronavirus test, or a recent recovery from COVID, that's needed for anyone over 12 at a host of venues, including gyms and theaters. Customers and businesses that don't comply could face stiff fines. Italy's vaccination campaign picked up ahead of the Green Pass rollout. Now, about 62% of those eligible for a jab have been fully vaccinated. But the race is on to get more people immunized to contain the spread of the Delta variant. On Thursday, Italy reporting more than 7,000 new cases. There has been pushback to Italy's new rules, and starting in September, it goes even further. The Green Pass will be mandatory for teachers and for those taking trains, planes, and ferries. Italy not alone in requiring such a pass. France was the first European country to say it was making proof of immunity mandatory to access a range of services and venues.
That health pass in France, it's been in effect since July 21st. You need it to get into places like museums and theaters. And since it was announced, vaccinations in France have seen a huge boost. And starting Monday, people there will need to show the pass to get into more places, like restaurants, bars, long-distance transportation. But before that happens, more protests are expected in France against the pass Saturday.
And luckily for us, the Green Pass is just our vaccination card. I didn't have to go and do all that stuff. So
you would just like show it at doors.
Right, and they would look and say, oh, you got the Johnson & Johnson, you're good to come in. It seems like not very formal.
Sure.
It's just like, look at something and...
Our vaccine cards are literally just a sheet of paper.
You could totally forge this and make some kind of like fake thing.
Yeah.
If you didn't want to get vaccinated, and I mean, that would be in some ways irresponsible, but if you feel like it's all a scam to begin with, like you don't really feel like you're... But the thing that's interesting is, I believe, so if you're vaccinated, this is like, I hope I can wrap my head around this because it's kind of confusing even to me, but I'll try to get this out and maybe we can make sense of this. To get your Green Pass, you could be vaccinated, right? You're vaccinated, you get the Green Pass, you're good to go. I had lunch with a guy that we met in Italy last time when we were with Elia, and I asked him, can you get the Green Pass if you just get a negative test? And he said, yes. This could be wrong, but he said, yes, if you test negative, you can get the days, and then you have to get tested again. And so if you are an anti-vaxxer, you can't, I mean, there's people that can't get the vaccine, right? if you have a health condition or you're a child, maybe you still need this green pass.
Yeah, how does that work?
So you get tested and you get a negative test, but the tests are only good for 48 active. But here's what I don't understand, is here in America, Fauci is starting to say, the science seems to say, that if you're vaccinated, you're still just as capable of transmitting the virus. So I read an article where it is as transmittable as measles and chickenpox, and I'm like,
when you're vaccinated.
When you're vaccinated. That's what the new head of, is it the CDC? Is that the woman, the new CDC lady? She said it's one of the most transmittable diseases we have ever seen. And I was like, really? That's huge breaking news, right? Because if you're now vaccinated, yes, you're not going to go to the hospital, you're not going to die. But if you're vaccinated and you can still transmit this virus, then what does the pass even matter?
Yeah.
Like, you have the green pass, but guess what? You're just as likely to be a carrier, like being vaccinated. If they said you have to be tested every 2 days, that'd be a big pain in the ass. But that would kind of make sense, right? We know that you're actively testing and you're testing negative.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that makes much sense. But if being vaccinated now is not a precursor to being able to not spread the disease, then all of this just seems like a show, being able to not spread the disease. Then all of this just seems like a show, right?
Theater.
Theater.
As Rand Paul would say. Dude, our computer is going crazy. It's like, error, error, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain
I mean, I have it here on our iPad and it looks okay.
Okay.
But, so I don't know if the green pass is like the future. It definitely is the future. We are having green passes here in America.
You think?
There's no doubt, yes. After seeing it implemented and it's just starting in Europe, it's coming our way, but it just seems like it doesn't make any sense to me. If vaccinated people can still carry and spread the virus, then what does it matter? It just means you have a green. It just means a restaurant's not liable for you dying.
In a way, if that is true, if it is true that vaccinated people are able to spread it just as easily as unvaccinated people, I would argue that vaccinated people are more dangerous because they would be less likely to have symptoms and more likely to be spreading it unknowingly, right?
Yeah.
I have not heard that vaccinated people can spread it as easily.
What do you guys think? Like, that's what I've been reading for the last, 3 weeks. I just feel like Fauci and all these people are saying double mask even if you're vaccinated, and we put the mask mandate back on inside buildings.
I know that.
Like, everything seems to be hinting at vaccinated people can still spread this variant.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I thought those were called breakthrough cases, and it's
yeah, and that's where I'm a little confused, because if that's the case, there's breakthrough cases happening all the time, but you also see headlines saying breakthrough cases are so rare. I was a breakthrough case, depending on how you define it.
Yeah.
I got the virus after being vaccinated. I think what a breakthrough case really means is somebody who gets deathly ill or goes to the hospital after having already been vaccinated. Like, it's broken through enough to where the response you need isn't there, the autoimmune response isn't there, and you are now in dire need of, medical attention. I thought that's what that meant. Because if a breakthrough case is just, hey, you're vaccinated and you caught COVID, I think that's happening a lot. Or at least there's two different narratives that are coming out that are making this very confusing.
Well, I want to talk more about the passport. Let me just quickly show you these numbers because I said I was going to. I'll go full screen here. And we'll look at the world real quick. So this is cases and this is deaths. I mean, we are moving back on up to a third wave here.
Yeah.
That who knows if it's going to surpass. And then looking at the most, I have it set to new deaths. Indonesia. You never hear about Indonesia in the news. I never hear about Indonesia.
I thought Indonesia was doing kind of good.
They are by far the worst on earth right now. They are just getting destroyed. 1,800 deaths 2 days ago. Brazil is still doing horrible. USA, we're still top 10. USA. But we only have 242 deaths 2 days ago. However, check out Florida. Look at this. So daily new cases in Florida, significantly higher than ever before. And you can't look at cases, right? Because if
we weren't testing at the beginning, and if everyone's getting tested multiple times,
and if everybody's got the Delta variant but it's not deadly, who cares? You know, really all you should care about is deaths and hospitalizations and stuff. But check out the death chart.
okay.
I mean, it's moving on up too. Now, I saw another chart that I actually sent you earlier today that showed this day with 199 deaths was actually higher than ever before in Florida. And I told you, oh my gosh, Florida has surpassed its worst death day ever. But then when I look at this chart, that's not the case. And I haven't read any news headlines that actually say that.
Yeah.
But if we continue on this trajectory, who knows?
And what's crazy is, I don't know if we have any videos about this, but there's like battles going on between Texas and Florida with the president, right? The governors are doubling down and saying, we are not requiring masks at schools, and you know, we're not going to ask anyone to mask up. We're not doing mask mandates. We're not going to do it. And so it's kind of weird to think that Florida is about to hit their highest death number ever. And then these governors are doubling down on it, right?
Well, so I got into an argument with my libtard friend last night, and he just gets so worked up over all this. He's like, we all got a double mask, and we got to make the kids wear the masks, and I don't, it's like, and I take the position that, listen, we've got the vaccine. If people don't want to take the vaccine, they are putting their own lives at risk.
Okay.
It's not the government's job to force us to not go to restaurants or not frequent businesses or to wear masks. Inform us. CNN keeps showing us the scare videos of people regretting not taking the vaccine. I'll show you one in a second. Educate people. But then let people get back to their lives. If people want to risk their lives and ride a motorcycle, like, they get to do that. If people want to risk their lives and get drunk, like, we don't ban alcohol. We don't ban smoking. Like, people get to risk their lives. Now, maybe you could make the argument if it was actually seriously dangerous for children, and at the moment children under 12 are not allowed to be vaccinated. Then at that point, could you make the argument, well, we should be mandating it. It's dangerous for kids.
We just showed that video at the beginning.
So I looked this up for the last one, and for like the last 12 months, more children died previously of the flu than died of coronavirus. I believe under 12 years old. So the flu is literally more dangerous for children, and we don't make kids wear masks at schools and blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't know if the Delta variant changes that, but even if it was twice as bad as the flu, if you do nothing for the flu with kids, why all of a sudden, like I was talking to a buddy here who's got a kid in the school here, and he said, like, all the kids have to wear masks all day. The school days are split in half, so each class has half the amount of students, and then every desk has a piece of plexiglass. Like, you are in a little plexiglass box as well, and you're not allowed to, like, play with friends outside.
We're getting closer and closer to the Matrix.
Yeah, for real.
Where we're all just going to sit there and have it pumped into us.
Yeah, and then, they do that at school, and then what do all the kids do? They all go to the community pool here, and then they all play together and breathe in each other's faces. So, like, what is the point?
Yeah. Got a couple super chats here. Okay. We have Photog Mike back in the house. He says, when I caught the Rona last year, I had my mother, a retired nurse, take care of me since I was not eating or drinking for 7 days. For 7 days, she tested negative. So this was back to your comment on like how we're like spouses and stuff not getting it. We have another super chat from a person could easily fix
an English person.
An English person out there. But that's the narrative that I've heard. That's the reason we are now, everyone's wearing masks again, is because being vaccinated is not enough.
Man, I've started going to stores here in Puerto Rico, maskless for the first time, and it's pretty weird here because, and I don't know if they've reversed it yet, but...
Can you do that?
Somebody told me that at Walmart and Costco now, it is a recommendation but not a requirement.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm just going to try and see if I get yelled at. So I walk into Walmart. I am the only person. And, dude, the Walmarts in Puerto Rico, you think Walmarts in the States are packed full of people? It's like 10 times more people
Yeah,
in
and the
Puerto
aisles
Rico.
are 10 times smaller.
Yeah. So I was literally the only person and I walked around that whole store. I was the only person.
Everyone looking at you weird?
Yeah, it felt like it. Katie said it was all in my head, but I'm like, it
Yeah.
feels like people hate me. And then I went to a grocery store and did the same thing, and I was the only person not wearing a mask. But I don't think it's a rule or law anymore.
Well, I remember they lifted it because I was going to the gym not wearing a mask. Finally, wearing a mask in the gym is the worst, right? And then I thought that I read that they reversed it and that the government here said you have to wear masks.
Vaccine passport things. Cuomo, my boy Cuomo,
Your
as
boy
you like
Cuomo
to
is
say.
This is
out.
one of the most challenging times for government in a generation. Government really needs to function today. Government needs to perform. It is a matter of life and death, government operations. And wasting energy on distractions is the last thing that state government should be doing. And I cannot be the cause of that. New York tough means New York loving. And I love New York. And I love you. And everything I have ever done has been motivated by that love. And I would never want to be unhelpful in any way. And I think that given the circumstance.
Dude, I don't even want to watch this anymore. It's like he's being so vague and stuff.
Yeah, he's about to say, and I resign.
The best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing.
So, in case anybody doesn't know what's going on or you're watching this in the future, Cuomo got in trouble for putting old people who were COVID positive back into nursing homes. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that was the current CDC guideline. That was what they were suggesting to do. And basically that made it rampant in the nursing homes, and that killed the most amount of New Yorkers.
Sweden and New York were hit so bad because they did similar policies. But the buck stops with him. Like, he was the one that...
I don't know. Like, I never really blamed him for that. It seemed like he was just following other recommendations. The fear was the hospitals were going to be overloaded. We got to move these people to a place where they already are getting care from, nurses and stuff. So it kind of made sense. I wasn't really that upset about it, but, people have not let it go. But that's not the reason why he's quitting. It's because of these sexual allegations. Allegations.
It's definitely alu.
I've had too many drinks at one.
Allegations.
And it's weird because, didn't Trump straight up rape people? I mean, at least Trump has done some insane stuff. And from what I've heard, and maybe I missed out on some Cuomo stuff, it was like he touched a girl's butt and he touched a girl's face and he kissed her on the cheek and then he...
I thought there were some allegations where he brought people back to a hotel room and they felt uncomfortable. I don't know. I mean, there's now 11 women.
No, I'm not saying that he shouldn't retire or whatever.
It's a slippery slope because it's like you don't want to not believe the girls, but I also feel like this happened with the Kavanaugh guy, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I always think about this from our perspective. Like, we've had female workers, and like I just went to one of their weddings. Like, we're really good friends with them. But like, all it takes is for somebody to just say something, and all of a sudden it's like, who do you believe? You want to believe the girl because like she's probably been suppressed, and like the powerful men have done these horrible things to her.
Yeah.
But then you also feel like, but wait, we gotta hear the whole side of the story, and is there more to this? And when you get to politics at this level, I don't know who to believe, I think I can make up my mind with Trump. But when you have the Kavanaugh thing and you have, what was the other guy? Who was the comedian guy, the senator who got kicked out? Because he...
Al Franken?
Al Franken. Like, you have all
It's
these...
like he posed pretending to touch somebody's breast who was
I did that
asleep.
once with my sister. I mean, it's like, it happens, where you act like...
It just happens. How does it happen?
Yeah, you do a funny joke or something. And
well, yeah, of course, man. Like, the girls that we have had, that work with us, it's like we become best friends with them, and we're all sexually harassing everybody. Like, everybody's sexually harassing everyone. Like, that's just...
But it'd be very hard for us to come forward and be like, you know what? That time, Lauren, made me feel really uncomfortable.
I know.
At work. But you were the boss, and you hired her.
That's true. That's true.
You wear those short shorts all the time.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to stick up for Cuomo or anything. I'm just saying that I just kind of want to be fair across the board. I'm sure he was inappropriate with allegations against Trump were infinitely worse than the allegations I heard about Cuomo. So I'm just trying to be
fair. Did you hear what he said on like his reasoning of stepping down? His reasoning was, I know this is going to go on for months, and this is going to cost the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars, and I don't want to do that as a government official who should be doing the work of the people.
Yep.
And it made me just think like, because then I hear the commentators on CNN, other people would say maybe that's a more left-leaning website, news organization. They're just bashing him on all of this. And I was sitting there thinking like, what would you do? Like, if you really felt like you 100% are not guilty of this,
I know.
would you be like, I don't care if I'm spending taxpayer money. I am not settling this. I'm not giving up my job because of these allegations. Like, I'm going to sit and fight it.
Yeah.
It's a really weird position to find yourself in, you know?
Well, that's what's so weird is when the allegations aren't that bad, and again, maybe there are bad ones that I haven't heard or whatever, but it's like, I touched a girl's butt once. Honestly,
I mean, that has a wide range of like, how did you touch her butt?
How did you touch the butt?
Touching a butt could be you grab her ass right before she goes. Like, there could be a connotation where you're like, that is as bad as sexual harassment as it could be. Or
I can imagine infinite more things that are worse than grabbing a butt. Like, I used to shoot weddings,
okay.
And occasionally a woman would grab my butt at the wedding. You know, I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
They want a piece, right?
Well, that's a double standard. Like,
but it wasn't the most horrific sexual harassment that ever happened to me.
I mean, you had a mother once persuade her daughter to like pull her pants down in the photo booth at a wedding.
Yeah.
That was like a weird sexual thing that we all saw.
Yeah.
But I don't know. All I'm trying to say is you're like, touching a butt's not a big deal. I can see where touching a butt could be an extremely big deal. Or you're right, it might not be anything. It could be like a pat on the back and you accidentally hit the butt, or your hand.
Okay, listen. I'm saying.
This is such a weird conversation.
This is what photography is all about. I'm saying if Cuomo walked up to a woman and just grabbed the butt,
yeah,
he should probably be fired for that.
Yeah,
but it's not as bad as rape. Like, that's what women were saying. Trump, like, actually raped them.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, there needs to be, I just think there has to be an investigation into all of this. And it's tricky when
I'm so tired of these investigations.
I am too, but, like, what else are you going to do?
Just let the guy just, like, go
if
off
it
and
didn't
retire.
happen, he shouldn't be held accountable.
Like, you can't go to jail for grabbing the butt, right? So what's the point of an investigation? If there's something more serious and he can go to prison.
Is that not assault? I mean, I don't know if you can go to jail.
Dude, if somebody is in jail in America today for grabbing a butt cheek, we have to do prison reform immediately. Like, that's insane. That is insane. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about these vaccine passports.
Absolutely. Change this topic here. Before we lose all of our 10% of women followers.
So, from my libtard friend's perspective, he's like, we have to have the vaccine passports because it's the responsible thing to do. We're killing people every day that we don't have the vaccine passports, and everybody who's against the vaccine passports is a conspiracy theorist who's like afraid of government tyranny and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, I do see things from your perspective, but I also fall along the line of like, I don't like the government overreach either. And you could point to other things, other times when vaccines are mandated, right? Mm-hmm. Like to fly to certain countries, vaccines are mandated. I believe to send your kid to public school, they have to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
I don't know all about the vaccines and stuff. Like, I've certainly been vaccinated. I've done what I've had to when I travel to different countries. My kid's too young to go to school. I'm sure I'm going to learn about that. But we do mandate vaccines. In the military, they mandate vaccines. So it's we can't pretend that like, oh my gosh, this is totally different.
Yeah.
But this is not an approved vaccine yet. This is approved for like emergency use by the FDA right now.
Although I think I don't know if we have a video about this, but the FDA is very close to approving one of them.
I've heard that, like any day now, that could be approved. And I'm sure the conspiracy theorists are going to be like, they're in on it, you know, but whatever. But that's one thing to consider. But then the other thing to consider is when the government starts telling you you can't go into other people's private businesses without paperwork, then you can start making the argument, well, like, what about people who have AIDS? Or what about pedophiles? Or what about convicted felons? Or what about any number of things? Like, why do we let those people go into a restaurant, but somebody who might have recovered from COVID, they might already have natural immunity, they are not going to be allowed to go into someone else's restaurant? Like, that sounds insane to me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing to talk about is that it seems, especially from the news, that the people who are choosing not to get vaccinated are like the right-wing redneck crowd, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so.
Like, that's what you would think from just what, like, anytime CNN talks about unvaccinated people, it's get me alive. You know, it's one of those people, I'm saying it's minorities that are actually the ones that are the highest level unvaccinated. And Joe Rogan brings this up. I've got this clip right here.
Oh boy, I saw Joe Rogan trending the other day, and I think I watched the podcast on my own, but he was saying, what was it that he got in trouble saying recently?
Maybe this, I don't know.
In law in New York City where you have to have a vaccine passport to go everywhere. You have to have a vaccine to go to a restaurant, to a gym, to any place where people gather. It is crazy. And meanwhile, the biggest percentage of people that don't have vaccines and have been vaccinated are people of color. So this guy, people of color and immigrants, this is what he's always supposed to be pro people of color, pro diversity, pro immigration. Those are the people that don't have vaccines, and now you're precluding them from going to gyms and restaurants. And what about the people working in the restaurants? What about all these? Meanwhile, you have science coming out. There's legitimate articles. Jamie, I'll send this to you now. There's legitimate articles because doctors have been sending me these things, and this is neither pro nor con vaccine. This is not a judgment statement, but imperfect vaccination can enhance the transmission of highly virulent pathogens.
Right.
So this is a scientific paper from 2015.
So let me go
ahead.
ahead.
What did he just say?
It's a paper from 2015.
That said what? I didn't catch.
That's basically talking about leaky vaccines. So instead of me explaining it, I'll just play this clip.
Leaky.
Broadly speaking, we can think about two types of vaccines. There are vaccines which stop the onward transmission of the pathogen from the host. Those include things like smallpox, polio, mumps, rubella, measles, those sorts of childhood diseases. The vaccines we have in humans against those are very, very good, and they stop transmission. But there's another category of vaccines which we call leaky vaccines, which don't prevent that transmission. So they protect the host, but they allow some transmission of that pathogen on to other hosts. Those two types of vaccines, the perfect vaccine that stops transmission and the leaky vaccines, they're going to have very different outcomes. The perfect vaccines stop evolution. They don't allow the transmission, so there's no more evolution. The leaky vaccines, the ones that allow this transmission onto new hosts, they allow evolution of these pathogens because they can evolve from host to host to host and so change.
And anybody who's watching this who thinks like, oh, who's this conspiracy theory guy? This video came out like 6 or 7 years ago. So this was before COVID.
He was like playing the long game. He was getting that conspiracy theory ready.
Yeah.
The leaky vaccines are the ones that we're concerned with. And Marek's disease virus, the vaccines against that are of that sort. They protect the host from death, but they do not stop the host from transmitting a virus onto another chicken. Marek's disease virus, which is a herpes virus of chickens, it's a very big deal in the poultry industry. It used to be a very benign disease, so in the 1950s it did not cause much harm to chicken. These days the strains that circulate kill all unvaccinated birds in 10 days. Now what caused that? One possibility is that it was the vaccinations used in the industry to protect the birds against those diseases.
So there's a theory.
We talked about this months ago.
Yeah, maybe so.
That perhaps vaccinating the world at the rate that we're doing it, maybe if you could do it all at once, it would work. But at the rate that we're doing it, maybe it's allowing an unnatural pressure on the virus that will then find a way to mutate past the vaccine that we created in the lab.
Yeah, exactly. And it just has to do with how perfect the vaccine is. And apparently, although our vaccines keep us from getting ill for the most part ourselves, it's still allowing the virus to replicate and then mutate in our bodies. And then
How
we
dark
pass
can I
it.
get here?
Go for it.
If we just did nothing and we had everyone get this and it had a mortality rate of 2% and 2% of the world died, if we find that this goes on, because I'm starting to think this too, like my mind keeps changing. When I got the vaccine in March, I thought, this is over with.
Yeah.
This is done.
Yeah.
I'm starting to kind of change my mind now where I'm thinking, man, like I've had a lot of doctors here in Puerto Rico in our neighborhood say months ago, this is going to be around like the flu, and we're going to have to get booster shots, and we're going to have to get more vaccines, and this thing's not going away anytime soon. And if it's not going away anytime soon, are we going to just ditch the masks in our way of travel? Like, I think this is here for, I'm starting to believe this is here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 2020 was the year we wanted to forget. 2021 is not going to be any different. Maybe.
I mean, it's better.
It's better.
I'm allowed to go outside.
But it's still more of the same. It's still feeling like the same. Is 2022 going to be kind of the same? All I'm thinking is, like, how many years of this do you have to go where you say, what if we just treated this like the Spanish flu? We didn't know about vaccines. The whole world got it, you know, or enough people got it to where they built up natural immunity and then people died, you know. But, like, that's how it happened, and it was gone within a year. I mean, I think they had...
Is that right?
I think they had 3 full waves, but in a year from 1919 to 1920, we started the roaring 20s coming out of this whole thing. Where the way we're treating this now, I don't know that we've ever treated a pandemic like, I mean, this pandemic is the first pandemic, I believe, of this magnitude in the age of science where we know about vaccines. And we certainly know about mRNA vaccines. I mean, that's definitely never been done. Mm-hmm. So we're treating this unlike the world has ever treated a pandemic ever. And what happens if this gets drawn out to be 3-4 years? I mean, if we keep putting these lockdowns, and you kind of mentioned minorities and people who are skeptical of the government. I mean, a lot of people of color don't want to get the vaccine because you have the Tuskegee experiments and all these horrible things that our governments, and you look at, you know, Nazi Germany and all these things. There's been a lot of horrible things inflicted on minority people, not just people of color, but, you know, different religions and stuff. They have a legitimate reason not to trust the government.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical of people who 100% trust the government, you know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who have zero trust in the government. And so, I don't know, if you were just to draw this out and say this is going to be a 3 or 4 year period of us being locked down and the economy being suppressed and inflation going rampant and our government's printing all this money and people getting on welfare, and it's changing the entire way the world works in a arguably negative way. Would it have been better just to say like 1 or 2% of the whole population died and we moved on and it took a year and it was just like every other pandemic? I guess you have a moral obligation to say, if we're smart enough to fight this with vaccines, maybe it is our duty to do that.
Well, sure, unless in the future we realize that the vaccines caused some crazy variant that became even worse, you know,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh my gosh, we just did all that for no reason.
Well, to keep it a little dark, to continue to keep it dark, I've been thinking, what if you wanted to have a biological warfare and you release something like, I'm not saying that China did this, I don't think there's any evidence that this is a weapon, but there's a lot of evidence, maybe 50% of the debate right now is, did this come from the lab or did this come from nature? We're at 50-50 now, where when Trump was president...
I feel like it's a lot more towards the lab.
It's
50.
more towards the lab. I mean, I think we're in a 90-day period where the United States is trying to figure this out, you know? But wouldn't it be really easy for China now to just start like releasing and manipulating? Like, you could release a variant right now and like, wouldn't we all just be like, oh my gosh, there's a new variant, but like it would go under the radar.
You're saying now's the time to release something people wouldn't,
well, potentially. I mean, if you feel like you have a control over this virus and maybe China now is losing a grip on it again.
So that's actually interesting. I don't have any video clips about this, but the Delta variant has been spreading through China. And, you know, China's numbers of infections and deaths are so low, it's unbelievable. So China just released these statistics, and somehow they locked down all these cities, and then they tested every single citizen in the city.
Yeah.
And they said, you know, in these 5 cities, there were 9 cases of Delta variant or whatever. And then I was reading on Reddit, people were saying, but the test that they were using has a 4%, I'm making up these numbers right now, has a 4% false positive. And if you just take 4% times the million people that they tested.
Yeah, you get that number?
No. It's way too low.
Oh, like the number should be way higher.
Way higher.
So they're lying about...
they have to be lying is basically what people online were saying. And I thought, well, that does make sense.
I guess you could also go, I don't want to say we're talking conspiracy theories. I'm just throwing out weird ideas. You could also say, well, if the United States feels like we have a handle on this because we've gotten people vaccinated, it sure feels like we are doing pretty well now. Who's to say our government couldn't come up with a variant and then like inject that into China as like our return, like, hey, we know you guys did this. We're going to release something that you guys are not going to figure out the cure for.
I mean, what's the benefit of doing this?
It's like payback. It would be
How
like
is that payback? We get all our cheap electronics from China. We can't send viruses after them. Well, we got to get the new iPhone. It's coming out in like a month.
It's possible. Before I forget the thought, you were talking about minorities and, you know, immigrants, or Joe Rogan was saying like they're the ones hit the hardest. I was reading an article, probably on CNN or the BBC, where they were saying that third world countries like Africa are begging governments not to approve a booster shot because that would mean that the wealthiest people in the world, the United States and Western civilizations, would be hoarding and taking more vaccines to like get even more immunity, whereas I think it's something like Africa has 4% of their population has had a vaccine. So as wealthier people in places, countries, get more of the vaccine, it's preventing other places in the world from getting even their first dose. And so the guy that we know in Italy, he said he got coronavirus in December, and I was like, did you get the vaccine? And he's like, I'm on a waiting list. I'm not eligible to get the vaccine in Italy. And I was like, what do you mean? In America, we have so much vaccine now that like anyone who wants it can get it.
We're drunk on vaccine.
We're like, we're probably throwing vaccines away. Like they get warmed up and like literally there's no one to give it to because we've already decided I'm getting it or not getting it. In Italy, a guy cannot get the vaccine because he's already on
He has immunity.
He has immunity
That
from
sounds
December,
smart.
but that was like 8 months ago.
Sure. But
And if he wants it, he literally can't get it. And this is Italy we're talking about. I mean, this is the EU.
Yeah.
So if it's like that in Italy where somebody can't get his first dose because he already had coronavirus back in December, then you got to imagine there's a huge percentage of the world that can't get the vaccine at all.
Yeah.
And so this article is just saying how separated we are going to get to where literally the poorest people in the world are now the ones, and maybe that's why you're seeing Singapore getting hit really hard. You saw India getting hit really hard. I haven't heard of an African country, like no one's really pinpointed one.
They're good.
But Africa's got to be really bad, right?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think they're that bad. I mean,
well, then that would kind of...
Let's check out the numbers. What's a good country in Africa?
Uganda. I don't know. That's where my buddy lives.
So Uganda has deaths per 1 million, 57 deaths per 1 million. And just to compare that to the United States...
I mean, I don't see another number that's...
We have 1,889 deaths per 1 million.
Okay, go down. Go to 69 there.
Yeah, Thailand.
That's Thailand.
Yeah.
Right now, I believe Thailand has been added by the CDC as one of the countries to avoid at all costs. But they have 69 deaths per 1 million population?
I think Thailand, though, is getting hit pretty hard just now, though. It's the same thing. So, like, Indonesia is getting hit super hard at the moment.
But they still have a relatively low...
Their deaths per 1 million population is only 340. So they had almost no deaths in 2020, and now they're having 2,000 a day, which is crazy.
We got a super chat from San Tegri. This is €4. It says 3 a.m. in the Netherlands. Glad to watch you live.
Gracias.
I would definitely not be watching us live if I was overseas. It'd be way too early.
Oh, 3 a.m. Yeah. All right, let's watch like one more clip and then be done with this. We've got this one. Oop.
Nakiah Hodges appeared in court this morning to fight eviction over an alleged lease violation.
My house situation is not good. Like, me and my son have been washing up with cold water for over a month now.
She says her landlord shut off her utilities and wants her out. The single mother lost her job during the pandemic and is among the estimated 6.9 million households behind on rent. She hopes the CDC's new moratorium on evictions, which extends until October 3rd, helps keep her in her home.
If I do get locked out, I really wouldn't have nowhere to go.
She applied for rental assistance, but so far has not received any, and she's far from alone. According to an NBC News investigation, of the billions of dollars provided by Congress for emergency rental assistance, as of mid-July, 26 states had distributed less than 10% of the money allocated to them. Landlords like Stacey Johnson Cosby in Kansas City need the money too.
Are you not getting that money? Well, it's coming slowly. So there are some people, if you can find where to apply, how to apply, because the process is really cumbersome. And then once it is applied, it's a 4 to 6 week turnaround time to even find out if a caseworker has been assigned.
The CDC.
This is what I don't get. Why do we need rental assistance programs when we have inflated unemployment benefits? I mean, the story everywhere is like if you don't make much money, by going on unemployment during COVID, one, you can do it for over a year. And two, you have a very good chance of making more money not working than you did working.
So how do you not have the money?
Yeah, what's going on with that money?
I don't know.
I think people are just pocketing the money or buying stuff. I don't think they're paying the rent. I think when they know they don't have to pay the rent, I just don't think they're paying the rent. But they have the money that's from the unemployment.
Yeah, but I guess, like, she just said she didn't have hot water. Is that her landlord provides the hot water?
She said the landlord cut the utilities.
Okay, but you definitely don't want to live without utilities. So, like, if your argument was true, wouldn't people just be like, all right, I'm going to take the paycheck I'm getting from unemployment and put it towards my power?
I would think, yeah.
You're just like, they're out there just having fun, and they're like, I come home to a dark house.
If somebody can explain to me what her potential situation could be, maybe there's something that I'm not considering.
Well, I was going to ask you, why have there been so many states that have only given out the 10% of money that the government has issued?
Damn government, man. It's like your sister was going through all this. It's like you're on the phone 8 hours a day trying to get through to somebody, but the lines are all clogged up, and
you just stop even trying. But like, you're not going to stop trying if you need money to, because it's not, I think that money wasn't just for renters but also for landlords. If you have not been paid by your tenant.
Oh, really?
I mean, that whole story was wrapped up as a what's the word?
Moratorium.
Moratorium. That money was assistance for both sides of it. But she also said that this is extended till October 3rd or something. When I was leaving, I think last Friday. I thought last Friday, or maybe it was a week. Why would we have no audio? Is there another piece of another device that's not powered?
Can you hear us now? Check, check, check. seems like. Check. Seems like we're coming in really low. Talk, Patrick?
Check, 1, 2. Check.
Check. Why am I so low?
I don't know.
Check. See that? Maybe I gotta turn on here.
Did that do it? There you go.
Check.
Now you're back. But can anybody hear us? I said they can hear us now, right?
And I don't know why the TV screen looks like this.
What does the TV screen look like? Oh, it's just us full screen?
This whole thing has just gone crazy.
Huh.
All right, well, let's...
We got to wrap this up with the final story. The story we began this whole podcast with.
Yeah, so...
I don't even know if I've heard this story.
You haven't heard the story. So, to the dog.
The dog?
The dog.
Okay. The dog was probably great, right? I heard only good things.
He was okay.
Katie, is thrilled. She sounds like she's ready to have a dog.
No. Katie, this dog experience convinced Katie that she does not want a dog.
Really?
Yes. So, basically, the very next morning, after you guys leave to go to Italy, we get a message from the person who was watching the dog that just says, it's not working out. The dog is very unhappy with me. And, I don't want to speak ill of this woman. She's a neighbor of ours and a friend and everything. So I'll leave it at that. So Katie goes and gets the dog. And I'm trying to remember, and Katie...
What time was this? Do you know?
Like 10 a.m. or something? I don't know.
Oh, it was that early?
Maybe.
Because from our perspective, we landed... Then we did the whole buy the SIM card at the airport, put the new cards in, and then boom, you get all these messages. We've been in the air for 15 hours or whatever. And I'm getting all these messages of we can't keep the dog.
Yeah.
The second we land, it's the worst case scenario. I'm like, oh no. But I'm also getting all these videos of the dog acting perfect, sleeping and playing and...
I know. And again, I don't want to talk about her. So Katie goes and gets the dog, and Katie is acting excited about it, kind of how she was before. And I know from your perspective and from Christian's perspective, you guys think that Katie wanted the dog and Lee's being an asshole and Lee
because that's what you've both said.
Fair enough.
Katie's like, we want the dog. And you have been like, I don't want the dog.
Not only have I said I don't want the dog, I've said Katie doesn't want the dog, even though Katie's saying she does want the dog.
Well, you said I don't want the dog unless he is potty trained, but there's a lot of other reasons you didn't want the dog.
Yeah. And surely I am an asshole, but I just know, I have to deal with Katie every day being upset and stressed out and stuff, and I don't know if I know her better than she knows herself, but I just see what she gets stressed out about, and I'm like, you're definitely going to get super stressed out about a puppy.
Oh, they said no sound. Are we muted again?
What? Check. I think she might be behind.
Okay.
So, she gets a dog and she's excited. And honestly, I'm not mad at you guys. I wasn't mad about watching the dog. All I was saying before was I just want you to see if somebody else can watch the dog.
There's a lot of people that were, even afterwards, there was people willing to watch the dog, but Katie was like, oh, it's fine, we got the dog now.
Maybe, yeah, sure. So, just a few stories of the situations with the dog. So, you remember the last time you guys were gone and we came back.
Is this stories I want to hear? Because I feel like everything's good. The dog's happy. You can tell me.
It's fine. I mean, the dog was never in danger or anything.
Okay.
It was I'm just going to tell some annoying dog stories. So you guys were gone. We come back and the freezer had broken, and the freezer was filled with hundreds of pounds of meat.
There was some meat in there.
Yeah.
There was also other things.
Tons of meat.
Also pizzas and.
Sure.
Vegetables.
But if you could clean up rotten pizza that is in a plastic bag, or meat
the meat was
that's
all
wrapped
plastic.
in paper.
It wasn't in paper. It was in Ziploc bags and other things, too.
I mean, it was leaking all over the floor.
Okay, but...
Anyway, so we cleaned up your rotten meat, right? And we have been living in the house without a freezer. So the landlord said, hey, we're going to get a new refrigerator and freezer for you guys. So she calls me and she's like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you or whatever, but like the guys are at your house right now and your car's in the way. Like we got to open up the driveway to get the refrigerator and freezer right now. Your damn dog, when you want to take that dog outside and you say come, that dog does not want to come.
Right.
Very often. So I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta hurry, and I'm like watching the baby, but I'm like, I gotta hurry. So I hand the baby to Katie and I open the door, and in that moment, the dog just wants to go outside. And I'm like, what the heck? Why does this dog want to go outside? So I'm like, Rutledge, come here, buddy. And guess what? He doesn't want to come. He doesn't want to come.
Yeah, you can't let the puppy outside. You gotta like put him on a leash or like something.
Thank you, Patrick. So I can't just leave him outside because he's not going to run away, but I'm about to back up in my car. I don't want to run over him or whatever, so I'm like, I got to get the dog. So I'm like, come here. And
now he wants to play.
Well, and then the more angry I get,
the more
now he's like running from me, right? So I'm running around trying to get the dog. The fridge guy is watching, and he's probably annoyed or laughing at me. So I catch the dog. And I'm like, come here. And can you guess what happens?
He pees on you.
All over me. Dude, I pick him up like this, and it just goes all down my shirt and down my pants.
That's the reward for catching him.
And I'm like, what the hell? So I can't move the car because now there's pee all over me. So I have to tell the guys, like, I'm sorry. I have to run upstairs, change my clothes, throw the dog in some room, or the dog's like barking now because he's in a room without a human. Like this damn dog, right? So then that's just like one event. So then one day, one morning, this is like almost every day something like this happens. So Katie and I are having breakfast, and we get a knock on our kitchen door, which is weird because that's like from our balcony, basically. And I'm like, who the heck is this? Well, and I thought, oh, it's our bug guy. And we're kind of friends with our bug guy.
Pesticide guy.
Yeah. So he just kind of like trespasses on our property. So I let him in the kitchen, and I had just taken your dog out, and your dog just peed. And the dog runs up to him, and he reaches down to pet the dog, and the dog pees all over the kitchen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just made my plate of food and I was trying to eat. So now it's like, I got to clean up the pee. And the guy, so I'm like, oh my gosh, Gibson, what do you do? I'm like pissed. And the bug guy's like, Lee, it's okay. It's no problem. I'm like, yeah, it's no problem for you. It's a problem for me. I'm the one having the problem. No, it's no problem. It is a problem. It's a problem. So I'm cleaning up the pee. And he walks to the other side of the kitchen, to get away from the pee. And then he reaches down to touch Gibson again, and Gibson pees all over again. Like, I don't know how he was saving this much pee.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that was one day. Third day, this is the story that I'm hearing from Katie, so I might get the details wrong. But I'm gone, and I go to jiu-jitsu. And Katie is trying to bathe Nolan. Right, and at night sometimes your dog has the zoomies or whatever. He gets super excited. He wants to run around and bark and play.
He just runs back and forth.
Yeah, and barking.
The witching hour.
Yeah. So she's trying to clothe Nolan, and then she's right after the bath, he gets tired. You got to feed him. He needs to go to sleep, right? And the dog is running and bark, 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 bark. So she throws him into the stairwell and shuts the door. And the dog's just barking.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she puts the clothes on him and then runs to the door to handle the dog, opens the door, and the dog had peed all over our mat. And so she thought oh, maybe the dog was telling me that it had to pee, and that's why it was barking so much. So Maybe he didn't want to play.
The mat in the hall, in the stairwell?
We have like a mat leading into our bedroom outside. The dog peed on it. So she's like, well, okay, now he's peed. So we just got a super chat. This sounds like an explanation of why Patrick's dog looks slightly different, like a sitcom replace dead dog, but now
he is much larger. I feel like he grew 4 pounds in the 7 days I was gone.
Yeah. So anyway, she doesn't have time to clean up the pee, and then maybe the dog's still crazy. So she's like, I'm just gonna leave the dog in the stairwell, and I'm gonna go back to putting Nolan to sleep. So she gets Nolan fed and puts him to sleep, and then when she goes in the hallway, now the dog has taken a dump on the stairs as well. So peed in one place, pooped in another place.
And he just went out, or no?
I don't think so at that time.
Okay.
I don't think so at that time.
Sometimes he does, like, I don't know, I've noticed, I don't know the dog that well, but I think the dog sometimes like runs around and gets super excited, and then that's usually a good time he needs to go outside.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. Gosh, there was one other crazy dog story. Oh, yeah. Nolan was in here sleeping, or like right here, and Katie let the dog in, and the dog just bolts and just jumps on Nolan's head. Not in a mean way, or just a puppy way. And Nolan just wakes up and starts screaming, and Katie's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And then Katie tells me, like, I've wanted a dog for years now, and I thought I was ready to have a dog with a baby, and I realized that I was very wrong. You were right, Lee. I don't want a dog. And so maybe in that sense I should thank you.
I mean, I bet if you didn't have a puppy.
Of course.
It's like if you had a year-old or 2-year-old dog that had already been trained, has gone through everything. Yeah. Like the puppy phase, it's just like...
And to be perfectly honest and to be fair to you guys and your dog is actually quite well behaved and way calmer than our last dog. And for the most part, he will listen. It's very frustrating when he doesn't come when he's called and you have to like tempt him with food or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I don't know how to like... Maybe I need to watch more YouTube videos
on him. It's just time. But he is very good for how old he is, and he's much easier than other puppies. But Katie said that I was right, and it would have been better if somebody else watched the dog. But in the grand scheme of things, we did like him. Nolan and him would play on the floor together, and they'd have a good time. So it wasn't.
All you did was send us the great videos of them all playing and having a good time and squeaking the toy.
I have a couple of videos. Like I did record myself. Yeah. The moment I picked him up and he peed on me, I started recording. And Katie was like, "I'm glad you have time to record videos right now." And I said, "I'm going to show this video to Patrick. I was going to play it tonight, and then I just, with all this, I can't do it." But. Yeah, so it probably wasn't as smooth as you guys thought it would be, and maybe it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it would be. So.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I definitely can see where having a baby would be difficult territory. I mean, they all say don't get a puppy and a baby at the same time. Like that's the most stressful thing you can do.
Yeah, unless you just can easily put the dog outside, then it's fine.
Maybe we just don't have a gated yard and.
That's what I'm saying.
Sometimes he runs downstairs, and then I've gone around this whole house, but like many times where I let him outside and he walks downstairs, and the next thing I know, we're at the driveway, and then it's like, I'll just go up, and then we're back in my office, and it's just like, I just did a whole loop around this whole house.
Yeah, he did a loop around the house once on his own, and we're like, where'd he go? And he's gone all the way around and come back.
Luckily he's not going in the trees. Did he see an iguana while you were here? Because I don't think he's still seen an iguana. And it feels like there's a lot less iguanas in our yard lately. I feel like I would see them all the time. I haven't really seen that many lately.
Yeah, he's probably scaring them away. Our neighbor has these feral cats that he's feeding. And so I was out walking the dog, and he was like, "Oh, you got a dog?" And so I brought him over there. And your dog, I think, smelled the cat food. Mm-hmm. And there's this cat sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, your dog walked past this cat. And this cat maybe was like 2 or 3 feet from him. And your dog... never noticed this cat. And this cat was like tense. It was ready to fight.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be good." And your dog just went straight for the bowl of cat food and started eating the cat food. And I was like, all right, that makes sense.
All right. Photog Mike, put that video on OnlyFans, make some bank. Did we get all of our super chats? I don't know if we can even see them that well. Here we go. The Fajijan man. This sounds like an explanation of why Patrick's dogs looks like. Oh, you already read that one.
Yeah.
All right, I am kind of tired. I've been like doing laundry and like, you know, when you get back and you have 1,000 things to do after your vacation, and then you're also like jet lagged, and
yep,
it's kind of annoying. I'm like, I don't know what time it is. It's really probably like 4 in the morning, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, tomorrow we need to get new battery backup systems because that thing failed us when we needed it.
Kristen's going to Costco, so should we just buy the like correct ones, or I mean they're like $100.
Yeah, maybe it's fine.
And Costco's return policy is awesome. So like when something breaks, I just always buy luggage now from Costco because luggage is guaranteed to break in like a year or two. And then you just take it back and they're like, all right, we'll recredit you and you buy the new luggage.
Yeah, I just want my money back for these crappy ones that we bought that, you know, like these have been plugged in forever and both of them died. And did you have one die upstairs?
I've had 1 or 2 die.
Yeah, it's like they have a 1-year lifespan on these batteries. It's horrific.
And you have to have them here.
Yeah, it's horrible. All right, guys. Well, I'd play the outro video, but all this thing is broken, so we gotta figure out what the problem is. We got a lot of work to do tomorrow, but thanks for watching. And tomorrow, if we can fix this, we'll do the critique. Yeah, I got all that ready to go.
Oh, great.
Good night, everyone.
See you guys.